Hi everyone, I'm Sunny and welcome to the Goodreads Society. So we're about a quarter into 2022 and I just know that at the beginning of the year a lot of y'all pulled out Goodreads or the story graph, or maybe you even have like a physical book journal. You pulled it out and you wrote down, this year I want to read X amount of book. Am I right? If you're on this video, you probably have a reading goal or you want to set one, and I'm basically here to give you some advice to reach that goal. So if you're interested, let's keep on rolling with the video. So advice number one would be, ask yourself why you want to reach that goal, because I feel like one of the risks of online bookish communities such as booktube, booktalk, bookstagram is that there is a lot of comparison. You're gonna see other people setting their reading goals and you're gonna feel like you have to set a similar reading goal, but it doesn't make any sense if you only set it because you want it to be impressive or because you want to compete with others. You shouldn't make your reading goal about other people, you should make it about yourself. So ask yourself, why do I want to read X amount of books? For example, in my case, I want to reduce my screen time and replace it with like analog activities that don't require a screen, such as reading. I also have a book buying addiction and I have my TBR just keeps piling up, so I might as well read those books. Also, I noticed that reading is really good for my mental health because it's a good way for me to wind down, relax, and even meditate. And also it's a great source of escapism because I'm very stressed on a day-to-day life as a uni student, so I think it's important as an act of self-care that I set aside time for myself to read every day. So this is why I set my reading goal for this year. And now I challenge you to pull out your notes app or your journal, whatever, and just write down a list of reasons why you want to read more this year and reasons that make sense for you and no one else. Okay, so now that you know your reasons, now that you're clear about that, maybe you want to set a reading goal, like a specific number if you haven't already, or maybe if you already have, you want to reevaluate it. And to do so, you should listen to my second piece of advice, which is make your reading goal realistic for you and no one else. Because like I said earlier, it's very easy to compare yourself and you might feel like, ooh, this is so ridiculous, me wanting to read only 12 books this year, meanwhile this person is reading 100 books. Who cares? Make it realistic for you, because I'm gonna give you an example. There's this very popular booktuber, his name is Jack Edwards, and I saw on Goodreads that he set his reading goal for this year up to 165 books. Now that's cool, that's impressive. Now if I wanted to read 165 books this year, it would be a challenge and totally undoable, and it would be setting myself up for failure. Why is that? Well, Jack Edwards is a bookish content creator full-time. That's his literal job. His job is to read and then report back on books. And even his job outside of YouTube is in the publishing industry. So he literally makes a living out of reading. So it's such a huge part of his lifestyle, and it is actually very much included in his schedule. Like, he actually has to read. Now, if I were to do this, I am a full-time student, often having classes from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I am a slow reader. I suspect I haven't diagnosed ADHD, but even if I don't, I definitely have a very short attention span. So how could I possibly read 165 books? I couldn't. So if I were to compare myself to Jack Edwards' goal and set myself a similar goal, it would be ridiculous. It wouldn't make sense for me. So I figured a goal that makes sense for me is 50 books, and that feels realistic for me. If I set aside 15 to 30 minutes to read every day, then it's definitely doable. And you have to figure out what's doable for you. Are you a slow reader? A fast reader? Do you have a lot of free time on your hands? Do you have a lot of responsibilities to attend to and a packed schedule? Just figure out a number that makes sense for you. That way you don't set yourself up for failure. I have a question for you. I have a little challenge for you. Comment down below how many books you want to read this year and why. Next piece of advice is carry a book with you everywhere you go. You might think, okay, I have a very busy day, there's no way I'm gonna have a chance to read, so I'm not gonna bring a book with me. I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Picture this. You have a doctor's appointment, you're in the waiting room, and the person before you is taking an eternity to come out of the office. Or you're supposed to meet up for coffee with a friend, but she's stuck in traffic. All of these situations where you unexpectedly have to wait to be on standby for a certain amount of time. What do you usually do in that situation? Be honest. I'm gonna tell you what I think you do, and you're gonna tell me if I'm wrong. You pull out your little thing, your little device called a smartphone, and you scroll, and you scroll, and you scroll. Am I right? Well, what if I told you you could reach your reading goal so much faster if you were to put that phone away and pick a book instead? So if you always have a book with you, you can basically use up all like those little slivers of available time you have to do some reading. It doesn't seem like much, but when you put it all together, you're gonna see that you're actually reading a lot of books during waiting time. So definitely have a book with you everywhere, which kind of helps me segue into my next piece of advice, because if you don't want to carry a big fat book, I am here to tell you to diversify the format of the books you read. So of course there's the typical paperback or hardback book, but sometimes out of necessity or out of convenience, having a physical copy of a book with you isn't always ideal. But the cool thing is that such things as ebooks and audiobooks exist. Even if you don't want to carry one of these bad boys in your backpack all day, you can literally have phone. You can literally have every book in the planet just on this one little device. It's practical, it's convenient, it's also a lot cheaper for people who cannot necessarily afford books, and you can read it everywhere. You can read it on the metro or during lunchtime while you're eating with your other hand or whatever. You can read ebooks everywhere, and you carry a whole library with you without even having to own a backpack. And there's also audiobooks. I find that audiobooks are such a great way to do more reading. The type of people who are like, ooh, audiobooks are not real books. First of all, what are you even saying? Because the text that is being read out loud to you in your earphones is literally the same text that is printed on the page. So what is the difference? And it's also a little bit ableist, because some people are blind or have other disabilities that make them rely on audiobooks for reading. So are you saying these people are not real readers? Doesn't really make any sense. But anyway, you're literally digesting, consuming the exact same content, the exact same words that you would have read on a physical copy, on a physical page. Plus, it also has its advantages, because sometimes audiobooks cast very, very talented voice actors, and sometimes even your favorite actors narrate audiobooks. Also, you can multitask. So for people who are really busy, who say, oh, I want to read more, but I don't have a lot of time on my hands, well, you can listen to an audiobook while you're cleaning your house, doing your laundry, taking a shower, doing your makeup, like just the daily things that you do, you can read while doing them. That's really cool if you cannot really set aside a specific window of time to read. So yeah, vary your reading formats. Don't be scared of ebooks and audiobooks. Next piece of advice is do not be afraid to DNF books. If you're newer to the online book communities, DNF stands for did not finish. So it's basically when you start a book and you decide that you will not finish it because you don't like it. A lot of people feel obligated to finish a book once they've committed themselves to it. They're like 100 pages in and they hate it, but they're like, I have to finish this book. But let me tell you, you don't have to do this. You literally don't have to. First of all, you're wasting time. You're wasting energy on something you don't enjoy. You're probably going to be ruining your mood. You're going to be stuck in a reading slump after reading this book because it will just make you so sick of reading. Contrary to popular belief, it will not make you reach your reading goal faster, because you will just read it so slowly because you will hate it. So might as well stop reading it and move on to the next book, which you will actually enjoy and will make your reading experience so much more enjoyable. And also, DNFing a book doesn't mean you're totally giving up on it. You can always pick it up later if you feel like it. I'm much of a mood reader. Like, I need to pick a book depending on the mood that I'm currently in, and sometimes I will start a book and I won't be into it because I'm just not in the mood for it, and I'll stop reading it, pick it back up a few months later and end up actually liking it. Sometimes I'll give a book a second chance. So DNF books and then you can finish them later or not. You don't have to. Next piece of advice or affirmation is libraries are a reader's best friend. A lot of people don't want to or cannot buy books because buying books requires a certain budget, especially if you read a lot. It's not realistic for some people to buy every single book they want to read, especially depending on the country or the language you're reading in or the book you want to read. It can get real expensive. The formats also, like graphic novels, tend to be so much more expensive than mass market paperback novels. But I'm here to tell you that in most countries, now I know there are some exceptions, but in most places you have access to libraries where you can borrow a bunch of books for no money at all or a very small amount of money. So definitely look up if you have a local library and how to sign up and start your library borrowing journey, because it's gonna save your life. I literally just borrowed 10 volumes of Nana, the mangas by Ai Yazawa, and I literally could not have bought them because 10 volumes would come up to like 70 euros, and I don't have that amount of money to spend on mangas that I'm gonna finish reading in 1 hour. Even though I love them, I wish I owned them, but it's just not realistic for my budget right now. So I borrowed them from the library. And the cool thing is, if you end up really loving the book and wanting to own it, to add it to your own personal library, you can always get it later. You can read it from the library and then you can buy it when you want to reread it, or you can ask for it as a birthday or Christmas or holiday gift. But yeah, save your money and use up public libraries. Next piece of advice is join a book club or have a reading buddy. You know, reading is a great activity on its own, but sometimes you want to have people to talk about books with. You really want to exchange, you want to share your reactions, your thoughts, and that's why book clubs are the best. We are a book club at Goodreads Society, so you can join us. Our focus is on reading books from underrepresented voices, own voices books, but there are book clubs about pretty much anything. If you like fantasy, young adult, political books, poetry, there are book clubs about literally any subject you can think of, and there are so many book clubs that happen in real life, like in an actual place where you meet up with people. There are book clubs such as ours which happen online, and you can just interact on Instagram or Goodreads or YouTube and during live streams. Whichever way, I think that joining a book club is a really great way to engage yourself in your reading activity more and just make reading more exciting, which will eventually help you reach your reading goal. And if you don't want to join a book club, like maybe you don't want to read with that many people and you just want to read with one person, find a reading buddy. You can see in your group of friends if anyone is into books and wants to read books with you and then discuss it. Sumaya, the other person who runs this channel with me, and we are currently buddy reading. Let me tell you what I mean by Joan Didion. It's a collection of essays, and so every week we read 3 essays, and then on Sunday morning we FaceTime each other and we talk about the essays, which one was our favorite, what we thought of it, what were our favorite quotes. So it's just one-on-one buddy reading, and you can do that too if you don't want to join a book club, or you can do both like we do. And last but not least, my final piece of advice. It might sound a bit contradictory or counterproductive to everything I've just said before, but hear me out. Do not be afraid at any time, at any point of the year, to reduce your reading goal or totally give up on it. I'm not telling you like, oh, you should give up, don't challenge yourself. But the thing is, reading at its core should be for the spiritual or educational or entertaining aspect of the activity. And if it starts to feel like a chore, I don't know how to pronounce that. If it starts feeling like an obligation, if you start pressuring yourself to reach your goal and it's sucking the fun out of reading, then it's not worth it. Literally, what's the point? Setting a reading goal should be a way for you to challenge yourself and stick to a habit and have fun, just feel proud of yourself. The thing is, if it starts being the main focus of your experience as a reader, it becomes totally worthless. It becomes empty. What is the point? So if at any point during the year or your journey towards reaching your reading goal, you're starting to feel like, oh, this is too much, I'm not actually having fun, I'm pressuring myself to reach a goal, then you can lower the amount of books you want to read this year. Let's say you plan on reading 50, cut that in half. Maybe be like, okay, I'm actually gonna read 25 books or maybe even 12. And if that's not enough and you still feel pressure, literally cancel it.
Cancel.
Reading goal is over, party. You don't have to stick to a reading goal if it doesn't feel fun anymore. So yeah, those were my pieces of advice to help you read more. And if you made it to the end of this video, I really hope it helped you. I want your feedback and I want to hear what your reading goals are. So yeah, you do that and I'll be interacting with you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Check out our Instagram and maybe even join our book clubs over there if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just follow us for the pretty picture. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and that's it for today's video. Thank you so much. Bye.